If you have a flat tire, good, because today on the channel we're going to teach you how to change it. Having a flat tire is one of those things that happens to everybody and is very common. It could be an easy fix if you know what you're doing, but if you don't, it could put a damper on your day. So today, I'm going to try to teach you the best way I know how to change tires on a bicycle. I like to start by putting my bike in the lowest gear possible. This makes it easier to snake the chain and the derailleur out from the rear sprocket when you're taking the wheel off. So obviously the first step is to take off the wheel, and so you can take off the tire. In some cases, some bikes have a quick release lever. You simply turn that out, spin it to loosen it, and your wheel is loose. In my case, my axle is held in by a 6mm bolt. We loosen that and slide the axle out. Now to pull the wheel, you have to take the chain off. I'd start with the front sprocket, and then the rear. This is where having it in the lowest gear possible helps out. Pull back on the derailleur, straighten it out, and then you simply pull up, and you might have to fight the chain a little bit still. Simply pull it out. Next is taking off the tire. If you have a slow leak or a small puncture, you might still have some air left in the wheel. First, you want to unscrew the valve cap. Now, there are different types of valve caps and valve stems out there. If you have a road bike stem, it's going to look like this one, and it has a twist collar that screws onto the stem on top of having the valve cap as well. Unscrew it, squeeze it, make sure that all of the air is out. It makes it easier to take it out after. Next, you want to break the bead of the tire off the wheel. Push inward on the closest part of the tire to the rim and push it to the center of the rim. What you want to do is make sure that both beads of the tire are in the concave center part of the rim. That's the smallest part of the rim, which makes it easier to pull the tire off after. Next is pulling the first side of the bead off the tire. Now this can be tricky if you don't have a tire spoon, but you can do it without tire spoons. You simply grab the tire, pull up and out. It's a little tricky and you're probably gonna have to fight it. Once you have the first part of the bead started, you just want to work your way around, make sure that at least one bead of the tire is out, and simply pull your tube out. If you're reusing the same tire, all you gotta do is take off that one outside bead, leave the other one on. But if you're like me, and you're not using the same tire because you just stabbed it with a knife, take your new tire, put that inner bead on, just have that one hanging off, and we'll get the tube ready to put in. Now when buying a tube, you wanna make sure that the size of the tube matches the size of the tire. Now what I like to do is put a little air in the tube before I put it in the wheel. It makes it so that way when you put the tube in the tire, you have less chance of having a kinked tube or a twisted tube, and which can result in popping once you pump it up. Now you only want to put enough air in there so that it takes the shape of the tube when it's blown up. Before putting the tube in the tire, I like to rub my hands through the tire to make sure that whatever popped your tire, if it was a puncture and not a pinch flat, that it's not still in there and will result in another popped tube. When putting the tube in, I'd start with the valve stem first. You go along your wheel, look for the hole for the valve stem, stick it through, making sure to take off the little collar if you have one. Working the tube around the tire. At this point, if you have the collar, you can screw it back on. Now you only want this collar finger tight. Once you have the tube in one side of the tire, you want to work the other bead of the tire back onto the wheel. Again, making sure that the other bead that is still installed is in the concave part of the rim. You want to start with one section and just work your way around. Once you get to a certain point where there's about 1/8 of the tire left to go back on, you want to work both sides so that way they don't work against you. Just pull the tire onto the wheel. If you have the mountain bike and the road bike style valve stem, you want to twist the secondary valve that opens the actual valve itself in order to let the air in. Press the nozzle onto the valve and pump up to your desired pressure. Once you get about halfway through pumping up your tire, you want to go around and make sure that the tire is pumping up evenly. Make sure there's no bulbs where there could be a possible twisted tube or a bubble. If this happens, all you gotta do is let the air out, take off that one side of the bead of the tire, make sure the tube is untwisted and seated nicely, and pump it back up. If you don't know how much air to put in your tire, Most tires have PSI rating on the sidewall of the tire. That's your maximum pressure that you're allowed to put in that tire. You can put it up to that maximum tire pressure, or you can put it a little bit lower, depends on how you like to ride. After you pump up your tire, remove the nozzle, up the valve stem, and reverse the steps you took, and reverse the steps you took, and reverse the steps you took.
Today, Junior?
And put your wheel back on by reversing the steps you took, take it off. Alright, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope I was able to help those of you that didn't know how to change a tire, or maybe you did know and just needed a refresher. If you got value from the video, hit the thumbs up button, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one. Do you have a flat tire? Oh. Do you have a flat tire? Oh. I hit my wheel. Do you have a trip? Oh. Do you have a flat tire? Good, because today on the channel we're going to teach you how to change it.